Have you ever wanted your drawings to come to life? Or had a piece of jewelry you wish could turn into a real prototype? Or perhaps even had a small part of a pre-loved gadget break and you couldn't find the exact piece in stores? What if I told you that modeling with a 3D pen could bring you a step closer to turning all these into a reality? Now, you might have seen 3D pens being used as an introduction to 3D printing in schools. It is usually used to trace out designs from templates, creating multicolored decorations. If you have no knowledge of CAD modeling or computer-aided design modeling, the 3D pen is a good way to dip your toes into the world of 3D making. Did you know that we can do so much more with this 3D pen? In this video, we'll not only run through the materials and equipment you will need to create awesome designs, but I will also share with you tips and tricks to extend what you might already know to get you to the next level. If you have your own 3D pen, follow along as we transform 2D sketches and tracings into 3D sculptures and keychains that you can actually use. With numerous brands and models to choose from, where do you start? And what must you keep in mind when choosing a 3D pen? The first is comfort. How wide is the 3D pen? Now, unlike a normal pen, a 3D pen is significantly wider and will be different from how you typically hold your everyday ballpoint pen. With a 3D pen, there is a button we will have to push to activate the melting of filament. And for the filament to extrude smoothly, we have to hold it in an almost 90-degree position. Lastly, we have to draw very slowly as it takes time for heat to melt the filament. Also, we have to be mindful of the tip of the 3D pen, as accidentally touching it may burn our hand. To understand why the shape of a 3D pen is different, here are the inner workings of a 3D pen. It is a one-stop shop of electronics to melt the material, typically plastic, and to push it through a hot nozzle so that you can draw and sculpt your design. Clearly, your everyday pen would be just a few dollars, but this one you can expect to pay more than just a few dollars. If you're just starting out and haven't used one before, maybe you can experiment with a cheaper one or even an unbranded one. Just a word of caution, be sure to read the reviews so that you know that they can function as they are supposed to. From there, you can slowly work your way up to one with a higher precision and more functionality. What we will be using today is one such example. So just to show how far you can already push these unassuming 3D pens. Finally, the materials you want to work with. Just like 3D printers, the pens have a variety of materials they can be used with, from the typical PCL with a low melting point and easy to work with, to materials you would typically use such as PLA, which is tougher, but also requires a significantly higher melting temperature. Remember to read the manual for your specific 3D pen to be able to use it effectively, as these items, although exciting, can be dangerous. Ensure that your pen is able to reach the correct temperature in order to melt your filament so that you can mold it to the item you want, in this case, an orca. So before we start, it's a good idea to have all your items on the table first. What you need are a pair of tweezers, a pair of cutters, black and white filament, your soldering iron. Now the soldering iron is put in with a V-tip, a wet towel to clean your soldering iron, as well as your workspace, your 3D pen, and black and white filament. Oh, not forgetting your template. Now the template, you can download it from the captions. I have prepared it and you can just follow along. I have put also a transparency sheet above my template so that I don't damage the paper, and also I can move my transparency sheet around if I need to so that I can create more copies of the item. Say if you need to make more than one orca. Okay, so to start, we need to first create the skeleton. To do that, we can follow the first part of this, which is the structure. Use your white filament to draw the structure, and then we will assemble it together. I'm now waiting for my 3D pen to heat up to the right temperature, which should be around 180 and 190 degrees Celsius. Now, the pan needs to heat up to that degree Celsius to about less than 200, 180 to 190 to make sure that they can melt the PLA filament. So the filament we are using is called PLA. It's a good idea to use a pair of tweezers to slowly clean the tip of your 3D pen to make sure that there are no excess filament of a different color damaging the color of your orca later. Okay, so for this particular brand, once the light has turned blue, it means that it's ready for drawing. So I will slowly draw at the side first to flush out whatever previous color the pen has. Now, if you're drawing on normal table, your own marble table or wooden table, be sure to put on a piece of extra transparency paper or draw on somewhere other than the template so as to not damage your table. Okay, now I've flushed out the previous color and now I have the white color. What I'm going to do next is just draw the circles from left to right. Now you might be wondering, where do these circles go once I finish drawing it? And you might be wondering, why am I not drawing according to the lines? It's supposed to be a straight line, but it seems like the line I'm drawing is not exactly straight. It depends on your own motor skills or your capability. As for me, I do have, I would say, good motor skills. But it doesn't really matter that your lines are not straight, because this is going to be the structure of the inside. It's good if it's straight, but more importantly is that it is thick enough to withstand a second layer of filament later. Right. So I'm just gonna double that and let it be. Now, to take this out, I'll use the pair of tweezers and slowly scrape this off of the transparency paper and put it aside. Now we've drawn all of these. Now the next part is to assemble it. To assemble it, we put the long part first and start with the bigger circle, which should be in the middle. Draw a short dot at the bottom, and while it's still hot, place it on the line. That should infuse the two shapes together. Why I'm doing it on the table while the line is on the table is because as I put the filament or this shape in with that hot filament on it, it might melt the line. So if I put it here, the line won't become wonky or bent as I put the shape on. So I'm done with the left side of it. Now you won't be able to see it because it's on a white piece of paper. I'll just remove this for a while and place it on the cutting mat so that's easier for you to see. There we go. Now once you have this, the skeleton, the next part is curving this to show the pose of the whale. Now the pose that I'm making for the whale is the whale jumping out of water. So that means the body has to be bent a little bit. To do that, I'm going to bend this structure a bit because I'm drawing it on the line. So I have to bend it a little to have that shape. Then I'm going to encapsulate it by drawing more filament around it. There we go. Now making it look like a croissant. Once it looks like a croissant, you can then draw the lines along the other sides, the east and west of the orca, just to finish the full scaffold. There you go. Now it looks like a perfectly shaped croissant. Now you can use this structure to finish it up as a croissant instead of an orca. But because the video today we are creating an orca, let's finish it up as an orca. Now from this is the model. Now the next part is creating or enhancing the integrity of the model, thereby creating the base of the structure. If we don't have the base of the structure, the model will not be hard enough to withstand whatever use you have for it. That means that if you accidentally place your hand over it, it's going to squish down and become a flat 2D model instead of a 3D model. But because we want it to remain a 3D model for until the end of time, we are going to create a proper structure that is strong, a strong foundation. Now the next part is to finalize this structure. Notice that there are holes around this orca. Now the next part is filling up the holes so that it becomes an actual orca without the colors. To do that, there are three ways or three techniques. Number one, which I'm going to do first, is by holding your pen in place and rolling your model around like that. Don't worry about making mistakes here. It's okay if you accidentally added more lines or the filament jumbles up together. Having more string here actually makes your structure harder. Alright, that's done for the first technique. The first technique is more useful for shapes that are more cylindrical, just like this orca. Now once you have done that, you can move on to the next technique. The next technique of filling up holes is by drawing lines across the orca. Just like that. So this also will help to create more lines so that the structure becomes stronger. It's okay if your strings are not straight. Okay, and the last part is by drawing circles around the orca. Now drawing circles around the orca, just like this, little circles, will help to add in the filament, giving it layers, so that when we solder it, it doesn't create holes. Now what I like to do here is to actually go to the reference image that I have of the orca and decide which parts of this croissant or the structure I would like to color in with white. So taking a look at this orca, the bottom part of the orca are mostly white. So I'm going to draw in the whites of the orca at the bottom. I'm going to ignore the parts that are black and fill in the blacks later. Okay, so I've colored in the bottom part of the orca, which is the part that is mostly white. Now notice that there are two parts that are white from the side. This back part and the part near the eyes. So I'm just going to color in the whites over that side as well. Right, so I've created the back part here of the whites. Now I'm creating the near the eyes, the whites near the eyes. Now if you make mistakes here, it's okay. We can actually correct it later. But as much as possible, try to do it as accurate as possible. Now we've colored in all the whites. The next part is to add in the fins and the tails and color in the blacks. To do that, I'm going to take out the white filament and replace the white filament with black. Like I did previously, I'm just going to color in and flush out the previous color I have. Okay, so now that I have black, I can draw in the tail and fins. So you'll need two of the flippers. This is what I mean when I say that you can actually remove from fancy paper and draw more than one copy. So I have one of the fin, I can draw a second fin right here. Now the next part, I'm going to put the fins into the model that I have. So I have this model currently. I'm going to, this is the end, I'm just going to poke it a little bit to give it some space for the tail to go in. And I put in a little bit of glue and put my tail in. There we go. So notice that the curvature is that way, so the tail has to follow the curvature of the body. Next, we'll color in the blacks onto the wing. Now this part is where we use the third technique, which is coloring in using the circle. You can also use lines if you wish to. It doesn't make any difference at this point. Okay, So where do the fins go? I've drawn the fins here. This one goes to the top of the body around the midsection. So I draw a line there around the midsection and push in the top fin. There you go. And then the flippers go near the eyes, which is around here. Draw a line there and push in the flippers. And this one go to the side. Now it may not look so much like a whale as of now, but you have to trust the process and it will all come together at the end. So once you have done the top part of the model, we can go to the bottom of the model and see what it looks like. So from our reference image, we have a bit of a cross there, so we're going to retain that cross and draw the black here. Notice that the bottom of the fin is white, so we'll draw it in white later. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with the blacks. I'm taking a look at which of the whites I accidentally colored in with black, and I will color in with the white shortly. I'm also going to add in all the other details that I have to. Okay, I'm going to change to the white color again for the finishing color. Right, now if you have accidentally colored in with the wrong color, you can either color in with the white again afterwards, or you can use your cutter and slowly cut off that particular layer, just to remove too much colors. Right, I'm cleaning up a bit before I move on. Okay, now that I have white, color in the white again. It will look a bit messy, so the next part is using the soldering iron. So to use it, you have to heat up your soldering iron to about 470 to 480 degrees Celsius. Although the melting point is about 200 degrees, like I mentioned earlier, the soldering iron may need to be about double the heat in order to speed up the process. So once you have set the correct temperature and turned it on, you need to have a wet towel in order to clean your soldering iron. So the way to do it is to slowly draw over your orca away from you. Notice how I'm doing it very carefully and very slowly, very demure, very mindful. Okay, and slowly pushing away from you, and also you can reshape your orca as you require. Now, take note to only solder one color at a time, so that the two colors don't mix up. And also, if you have some extra, if you notice that your orca is a little bit wonky on one side, you can also use the soldering iron to reshape it and make it curve in. Just like that. Now this will take a little bit of time, and if you notice that your color is coming off, you can always top it up with the correct color later. So you can do this all around, and once you have done that, reshape it. And for the tail, remember to put the whites at the bottom. The bottom of the tail here should be white. Once you've done the fin, you have corrected the eye area, you should have something that looks like this. All done. The blacks are in the correct position, the whites in the correct position, and at the bottom, the whites are here, the bottom of the tail is also white. Now, what can you do with this model? You can either place it in a space that you frequent so that you can look at it all the time, or you can turn it into a keyring. Now notice, after having all the sculptures and all the additions of the layers of the colors, your model is actually very, very tough. So you can have it as a keyring. To do that, you have to add the holes for the keyring to go through. Now, you can add it to either the top fin here, you can draw a hole through it, a small hole. Be careful when you do this. And once you have the hole, you can push the keyring through, or you can do it through the tail. Or you can also add in an additional part here at the top so that you can draw a hole in through the additional part and your keyring can go through. For now, I'm just going to draw a hole through the tail as well as the fin, so I have two options later. I have also prepared my keyring. This. I can have this type of keyring. Make sure it goes through. If it's too small, you can make sure you can use the soldering iron to make the hole bigger as well. There you go. So you have a keyring of your whale. Okay, voila! Congratulations on creating your own 3D hand-drawn orca keyring. You can find the 3D template in the descriptions below. You can download it, you can even scale it up if you want to, or scale it down if you want the orca to be smaller. We hope you have enjoyed following along with us to see what you can do with the 3D pen. Do let us know in the comments below if you want to see more of these kind of videos, more explorations with 3D pen and how they can work with other maker techniques, as well as other maker equipments. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon as we create more maker tips and tricks with Tinkermind.